Okay, so we're at the very first line, 12a, and we just had a question that was posed. This marketplace outside of Aza. So it was very, very close to the city. So we had in the Mishnah that if you're outside the city, so if there's idol worship inside, you can do business with the people outside. So idol worship outside, you can do business with the people inside. What about Aza and its marketplace? Aza was full of idol worship. The marketplace outside was not. What about that? So the response is the cryptic response that it's just like two pots, one of a non-Jew, one of a Jew, next to each other. We're not worried. So now, what does it mean we're not worried? What was this parable? So three opinions. What did it mean that the rabbis are not worried when you have a pot of a non-Jew and a pot of a Jew next to each other? So the first opinion, Amar Abaye, Mishum Basar Nevela Lo Amrina. We don't assume that the non-Jew just goes and takes a nevela, a non-kosher animal, and throws it in to the Jewish guy's food. So if you're not sure, did it become kosher or not? So if you have a doubt, is that food kosher or not kosher? You don't assume that he went and took his non-kosher animal and threw it into your pot. So too, if you're not sure about who you're dealing with in the marketplace outside of Aza, you don't assume that it's money that was money that's going to an idol. Rather, you can assume that it's normal people, normal money, and you're not a violation of any prohibition. So, we don't assume that when the guy Yisrael turned his back, the non-Jew threw in the nevela, the non-kosher animal into the pot. So the kavasei hachanami, so too here. Lo chashu chachamim mishum demei avodas kochavim. They weren't worried because of the money of the non-Jews that it's going to idol worship in the area outside of Aza. So therefore, he understands it's permitted, and that was really the response of Rabbi Chanina. Rava says no. Rava Amar Mai lo chashu chachamim. Your case of nevelos for sure we're not worried about that. However, so that doesn't need to be spoken out. Rather, Rav Amar Ma'ilo Chashlan Chachamim Mishum Bishule Obdei Kochavim, that we're not worried that a non-Jew might have cooked for you food, and the food you're eating was cooked by him. So that we're not worried about. So once again, so if you're in a doubt, was this food being cooked by a non-Jew? Did he turn on the oven? Did he stoke the coals? So if you're not sure, you don't assume that. So for sure, in our case, when you're in the marketplace outside of Aza, you also don't assume that the money is going to the idol. So the kavasei hachanami lo chashon chachamim mishum yom edom. You don't assume that the money is going to go to buy a sacrifice for their holidays. So another way of saying that Rabbi Chanina allowed business with them in their marketplace outside of the city of Aza. One more, Rabbi Bar Ula Amar Lo Chashlam Chachamim Mishum Sinura. So he says, it sounds like he might be arguing. He holds that on the day of their holiday, Rabbi Chanina did not allow business to do business with the people in the marketplace. However, it's not similar to a case of two kederos, of two pots that are on the stove. Why? Because so it's not similar. Why? Because by the two pots, what could you be worried about? Maybe some of the food from one pot splashed into the other pot, and yet, however, the way at least Rashi understands that Rabbi Bar Ula says on the actual day of the holiday, so it's too close. The marketplace and the city are too close; it'd be prohibited. However, if it was before the holiday, so then he said it would be okay, and we're not worried that some of the food, so to speak, splashed into the other pot. So too, we're not worried that if it was before the holidays, that some of the money is going to go to purchase idols. And that which our Mishnah says is prohibited is permitted when you're outside of the city. That's when you're in a farther distance away from the city. But Aza and its marketplace are too close together. One second, sorry. Yeah. Okay. So that is his opinion. So so too, just like by the two pots, you're not worried that some of the non-kosher food splash into the kosher food. So too, you're not worried that beforehand, that if it's before the day of their holidays, that the money's going to go to idol worship. However, if it's the day of their holidays, he would prohibit it. He would not permit it. Okay. So the Mishnah said that can you go to a city that serves their idols? So the Mishnah said if that's the only way to get there, then it's going to be prohibited. There's another way, if that way can take you many places, and one of them being the city, then it's fine. So now on that idea of that things look like you're doing idols, I have a whole bunch of examples. Taner Rabbanan. Ir sheyesh ba'avodas chachavim asur likanos lesocha v'lo mitoicha le'ir acheres divrei Rabbi Meir. So a city that has inside of it idol worship, you're prohibited from entering it or going from there to another city. That is the opinion of Rabbi Meir. However, it depends. It depends. If this is the only way to get to that city, then you're right, then it's prohibited. Because if this path only goes to that city, it looks like you're doing idols, like you're on your way to serve idols. However, if it's just a path that, the I-5, you can get off at any exit, so then that's not going to be prohibited. That's going to be permitted. Now, what happens if Yashav lo kotes b'nei avodas? There's this thorn, which is a danger in the public. Nowadays, I don't know, a nail or a needle, something that's in that's dangerous to people. Except it's placed right in front of an idol. So what are you going to do? You're going to bend down to go pick it up. However, bending down, if you were to bend down with intent, that's going to be prohibited biblically. So this looks like that. Don't bend down and pick it up. Why? It looks like you're bowing down to idol. However, if it's if it's not visible, we'll see what that means, not visible, then it's permitted. That's one case. What if there's a bunch of money scattered in front of the idol? There's scattered money in front of the idol. Don't bend down and pick it up. It looks like you're bowing down to idols. If it's not visible, mutter. Then it's permitted. Case number 3. There's a spring of water that's going in front of the idol, and you want to drink. It looks like you're bowing down to an idol. Nowadays, I'm sure an equivalent would be you're walking by a church or something like that, and you want to pick up your, I don't know, you drop something and you want to pick it up. I don't know, something like that.
The drinking fountain.
Or yeah, exactly. Or drinking fountain. Mutter. But if it's not visible, we'll see what that means. Not visible, then it's permitted. Partsufos hamakalchim mayim lekrachim. It sounds like they had like these pipes with pictures of people on the pipes, and water would go into them in these hollow tubes. Water would go into them, and it would go out and give out water to the villages. So lo yaniach piv al piem. Don't put your mouth on their end where the water comes out of. The yishta. Why? Because here mipnei shenira kimenashik avodas chachavim. Here it looks like you're kissing the Avodah Zora, which is also prohibited. So kiyotzebo, similarly, lo yaniach piv al silon. In general, don't put your mouth on a pipe of water. V'yishte mipnei sakana, because of danger. Whatever danger means, we'll see. So we had 5 cases of things you can't do for Avodah Zora. So all those cases, whether it's the thorn or the money or the 2 kinds of pipes, it says, if it's eino nira, if it's not visible, then it's fine. What's eino nira mean? My eino nira, if it means it's not visible, meaning no one's looking at you. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rab, any place that the rabbi has prohibited something because it looks like you're doing a prohibition, so that's going to be prohibited even when nobody sees it. Meaning, there's something called maris ayin, where you're doing something, and people could mistake what you're doing for a prohibition. For a prohibition. So if you're doing something which could be mistaken for a prohibition, they prohibit you from doing that. So in this case, you are bending down in front of the idol, so they prohibited that. So maybe you'll tell me but if no one's looking at you, then it's fine. So they said, no. If no one's looking at you, so then it's still prohibited. Once they prohibited it, it's prohibited even behind closed doors. So that can't be what eino nira means. So what does eino nira mean? Ela ema im eino nira kimishtachal b'roschachav mutter. If you do it in a way that it doesn't look like you're bowing down to the idol, then it's going to be permitted. If you're bowing down in a way that looks like you are bowing down to the idol, then it's going to be prohibited. Now, why do you have to have all these separate cases? Just tell me one case. You can't do this because it looks like you're bowing down to idols. So what's the case of a thorn? The itan of coats. If you only thought the case of a thorn, well, a thorn, mishum de efshar lemezal kamei umishkalei. There you can go around it and take it. You don't have to bend right down in front of the idol. Aval ma'os, but money, below efshar, but money which is scattered around, there's no other way to get the money other than to bow down in front of the idol. A malo, you would have thought that it's but for money, you would have thought that what?
Mere loss of money. Because in the case of the mere loss of money, but in the case of the thorn, which involves physical suffering, one could argue that it is not prohibited to bend down.
Right, so that's coming up soon. We're right before that.
On the other hand, the Brisa had taught that in the case of money, one could argue that bending down is prohibited only in that instance.
Right, I guess
because it entails a mere loss of money. Yeah.
And the one before that?
Oh, one could argue that it's not prohibited to bend down. I jumped over that. But in the case of the scattered money, where it's not possible to walk away and still retrieve its coins, one could argue that it's not prohibited to bend down.
Right. So by a thorn, you could get it in a different way. You don't have to bend down right in front of the idol. So since you did bow down in front of the idol, that's going to be prohibited. However, by money, when it's scattered all around, there's no other way to retrieve it other than bow down. Maybe they lifted their prohibition in that case. To that, the Brisa taught that even money is going to be prohibited. Now, if you only had the case of money, dimamona, that's money. Aval coats, the ta'ara that causes physical pain, that might really hurt somebody. Amalo, you would have thought that would be permitted to do it, to save someone from pain. So the Brisa taught you that even that is prohibited. Now, the itana honey tartik, you only had these 2 cases, money and thorns. Mishum delega sakana, there's not such a big danger. Aval ma'ayan, a spring of water, dika sakana, where there is a lot of danger, because we'll see what the danger is. The dilo shasi mayis, if you don't drink, you're going to die. You would have thought that maybe that would be permitted. Sricha. So therefore, I have to teach the case of the mayan. Now, this is a little complicated because a guy's actually about to die, and therefore the rabbis prohibited him from bending down, and they allowed him to die. That's very hard to understand. So I think there's 2 ways to go. Either you'll say that these prohibitions have they're on some level extensions of the biblical prohibition. They didn't make their new rabbinic prohibition. They extended the biblical prohibition, and therefore, for idol worship, you have to give up your life. Or maybe the simpler one would be, is that it doesn't mean you're going to die right now, necessarily like right now you're going to die, but it's something which if you don't drink now could lead to grave danger. And therefore you would have thought that that would be permitted, and yet we thought that's still prohibited. You still can't bow down and look like you're doing idols. Turning the page, partsufos. So what was the necessity of teaching the case of partsufos, namely of these pipes with the faces of the idols on it? So so it was just there to really for the next case. It was a setup for the next case, which teaches you that in general you shouldn't put your mouth on any pipes because it's going to be dangerous. Now, what's the danger of putting your mouth on a pipe and drinking? My sakana aluka. You might come and eat a leech, and a leech is very dangerous.
This might pick up a disease from someone else.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of diseases, Tana Rabbanan lo yishta adamayim. A person should not drink water. Mina naharos velo min ha'agamim, not from the
Rivers or ponds.
The rivers or ponds. Lo bepiv, not with your mouth directly. Velo biyado achas, and not with one of your hands. V'im shosa, and if you did do it, damo berosho, blood is on your head. Mipnei sakana, it's very dangerous. Mai sakana was much less filtered water back then, right?
Yeah.
So mai sakana saluka. Same problem with the leech. There might be a leech there, and that's extremely dangerous. Misayeh alei Rabbi Chanina. The Amar Rabbi Chanina says, Haboleya nima shel mayim. If a person drinks a leech, person drinks a leech, he ends up swallowing a leech. So mutter lahachem lo chamen b'Shabbos. You're allowed to heat up water from on Shabbos, even though that's a biblical prohibition. But because you swallow a leech, your life is in danger. So to save you, we can do anything. So you're allowed to heat up water on Shabbos. There was a story one time of somebody. Shebala nima shel mayim. He swallowed a leech. And Rabbi Nechemia allowed them to heat up water on Shabbos. Now, in the meantime, while you're waiting for the water to be heated up, Amar Rav Huna, Breder of Yeshua, ligama chala, you should swallow vinegar. Vinegar apparently beneficial to taking away the danger of the leech.
Probably better than hot water, which won't be so hot by the time it gets down to the stomach.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why, if you swallow very hot water?
How hot can you swallow, without severe? Yeah.
That's a good point. So, Amar of Idi Bar Avin, Ha'iman de Bala Zibora Mechaye Lochaye. One who swallows a hornet, I guess a living hornet, Lochaye, he's not going to live. However, Mihu Lishke Rabbi Yosef Bechala. Shema, guys, you should drink very strong vinegar. After the Chaye Purta, you might still live a little bit, ad the mafke the base say, until you can instruct your household about, which possessions you want to give them and your last rule, etc., etc. But we're just showing the danger of these things. So this part, I don't just look up. I want to look up the next part. Practically, what we do, because it sounds like
just recently a polo player swallowed a bee, and he killed him. Right?
The bee killed him?
Yeah, it killed him. He died from swallowing a bee.
We're underwater.
No, he was a polo player. He was in a horse. He was on a horse playing polo.
Okay.
And the bee of some sort went in his mouth and swallowed it. And it stung him to death or whatever.
Oh yeah! Wow.
Yeah, horrible.
Wow. Okay, so that's
a weird story.
Right, but that's what it's saying. So the next one we have to know practically how to do the next one. I don't have to look it up, but Tana Rabbanan lo yish to adam mayim balai. That sounds like wow. You can't drink any water at nighttime. So water from where? It's just a very vague statement. So Tosfos points out that there's a very similar statement in another in Pesachim that says really it's from the rivers and the ponds. But our Gemara sounds like even from vessels, one should not drink water. V'im shasa, if you do damo barosha, sakana, because of a sakana, because of a danger. My sakana, sakanas shavriri. It's a sakana of a demon named shavriri. So the itzachi, let's say you're very thirsty. So what should you do? My takante. So ikach, if there's someone else, you have a roommate or something, or you have a wife, so then wake them up. Lisray. Because when you're with somebody else, then the demon is not going to get you. And and tell a person that you woke up to come and drink water. The elo, and let's say there's no one else there to wake up.
White cup.
Oh, tzachina maya, wake up.
Well, that was one of the footnotes. Thirsty for water in a white cup.
Oh, that's coming up now, I think.
Oh, okay.
No, I think just to drink water. Yeah, maybe wake up. I don't see wake up, but maybe wake up. So,
a parallel passage in Pesachim,
yeah,
12a,
yeah,
reads, "I'm thirsty for water in white cups."
Right, okay. So,
It says it, yeah.
so now, b'lei malei tzachina maya, v'ilo. If there's no one else to wake up, what should you do? Nekarkash benachteme achatzva. Sounds like you should not ring, but to knock the lid on itself.
Rattle the lid of the water.
Yeah, rattle the lid of the water pitcher. V'nema, and say the following. V'neu imal and avshay. You say the following to yourself. Planya bar Planisa, you Ploni, the son of Ploni, and I think Planisa is the mother's name. So Amralach imech. So the mother says, "Is dire? Be careful from Mishavriri." And now you're going to go and remove a letter from his name, of the demon's name. Mishavriri, Veriri, Riri, Yiri, Ri. The kase chivari. Do this in white cup. There's your white cups. So by doing that, by diminishing the demon's name, it's a way to get him away. That's what you should do if you're thirsty at night time.
Remember that one?
Yeah. Okay, so that is that. Ir sheyesh ba'avodas chachavim, a city that has idol worship, b'hayu b'chanuyos me'utaros, and you have stores that are adorned, v'she'enu me'utaros, and ones that are not adorned. So Zehaya Mais, this was what happened in a place called Beit Sha'an, which if it's the same place, it's in the place of north of Israel. I stayed there one time, they have a whole youth hostel we stayed in camp. So it's very pretty. So by the Galilee in Israel. Beit Sha'an v'amru chachamim, the rabbi said the following. Ha'me'utaros, the ones that are adorned, so it's prohibited to go do business with them, because the fact that they're adorned is a sign that they are one that do idol worship. And you can't go and do business with them if they do idol worship. The ones that are not adorned, she'ein mutaros, are mutaros. The ones that are not adorned, those are permitted. Now, the big question here is, when are we talking about? So Rashi understands we're talking about the day of their holidays, to which Rashi is bothered by. We learned on the first mission of the Masechta, you can't do business with people on the day of their holidays. To which Rashi says, we're talking about a case where you're buying you're not selling to them, you're buying from them something which will last, some kind of item which will last for a long time, which they're not so happy about to sell it. The fact that they're selling it must mean that they're really pressed for money, and that's why. But I think others learned that we're not talking about the day of their holiday, maybe after their holiday, or maybe other cases. So you have to know exactly what. Are we talking about the day of their holiday, after the day of their holiday? When exactly are we talking about it? Tosa says it differently. It says, Tosa says it was a day where they gave tax breaks, not the day of the holiday, the day where they gave tax breaks. Um, and therefore, when there's no problem to do business in a store that's not adorned with anything specific, because it's like a regular store. But if its store is adorned with something, it'd be prohibited to go there, and we'll see why in a second. Get benefit. We're going to see you can't get benefit from things regarding idol worship. So, but according to Tosfos, it's not a day of the holiday. It's just a random day that they decided to do sales. And nowadays we'll call it, I don't know, Black Friday or July 4th or, like holiday weekend. They give you all these sales on things. So the stores that are adorned with, pictures of idol worship, but you can't go there and get benefit from those stores. But a regular store that doesn't show any sign of idol worship, your regular Target or whatever Best Buy that having a sale would be allowed. So that's a big difference, though. Either this Mishnah is a tremendous leniency in doing business on the day of the holidays, according to Rashi, or according to others, it's not talking about the day of the holidays, it's talking about a totally separate day. So now, Amar Rav Shimon ben Lakish, Lo Shanu Alamu Taros Bevered V'Hadas. Only if it's adorned with with violet and with
roses or myrtle.
Roses or myrtles. Yeah, roses or myrtles, okay. And hadas, like from the lulav nesar, the hadassim, and I've added the rose.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They come as hani mireche. Why? Because when you go into that store, you're benefiting from the nice smell of the roses and the myrtle. Now, you're not allowed to get benefit from things regarding idol worship.
Oh.
You can't get benefit from that. Now, it happens to be.
You smell somebody's barbecue.
So this is one of those Gemaras where you have to know other Gemaras to put it together, because there's another Gemara in Pesachim that 25th daf that talks about going down different roads where you have a smell of the idol, like the smoke of the idol.
Yeah.
So, and there it differentiates between if you have no other way to go, and if it's benefit that came to you forcibly. So, so let's say you have a place that sells chametz on Pesach, and you walk in, you can't get benefit from chametz on Pesach. What are you supposed to do? You're shopping for a bottle of water. It happens to be, right? So yeah, so you have to figure out how those two fit together. Aval mu'utaros bepeiros, if it's adorned with roots, then mutaros, then that is going to be permitted to do business in that store. Now, even though when you go into the store, you're giving the guy money, right? So you're giving him benefit. So we're saying that's still permitted. So my time, why can you not get benefit from the smell, but you are allowed to benefit them by giving them money? The Amar Kra, as the verse says, lo yidbak biyadcha ma'uma min acherim. So you go into Israel, I think, and you can't have anything from them in your hands. Any of their spoils, of their idol worshippers' spoils, that you destroyed their cities and you evacuated, you kicked them all out, and now they have all these idol stuff there. You can't have any of that in your hands, which is a way of saying that nana huda asr, you can't benefit at all from anything regarding idol worship. If they use that they use that couch for idol worship, you can't use that anymore. So benefit you can't do. However, aval mehane shari, according to Reish Lakish, aval mehane shari, but to benefit them, to give them money, that's allowed. That's a big statement. That you can benefit idol worship. Yeah, so Tosa points out, we're going to see hopefully in a few weeks, is that it's not so clear, because there are cases where it sounds like you are not allowed to benefit the idol worshiper. So Tosa says that it depends how much benefit they're getting, a lot of benefit or a little benefit. So, but sounds according to Reish Lakish, you could benefit them on some level. Give them a little money for a bottle of water, that's going to be fine. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, afilu mutaros bepeiros nami aser. Says no, even a store that's adorned with fruits is going to be also going to be prohibited. How do I know? Kal v'chomer. It's going to be a kal v'chomer. Nana aser. Getting benefit is prohibited. For sure, benefiting them is for sure prohibited. If nana aser mahana kol shekain, That's for sure going to be prohibited. These stores are stores of idols. So, right, even though they're only adorned with, they're still adorned. If they're adorned, you can assume that they serve idols, and therefore to give them money is going to be prohibited. Okay. So now, Meisvei Rabbi Nassan Omer, Yom Shavodos Kochavim, Maneches Boas Hameches. The day that the idol worshippers giving tax breaks, they're making discounts, having sales. Machrizin va'omrim, they say the following. They make an announcement: Kol misha notel atara. Anybody who takes the crown, which is used for their idols, v'yaniach berosho, uberosho chamoro, you put on your head or the head of your donkey, lichvod avodos chavim, to honor the idols. Yanichu loas hamechas. We're going to lower your taxes. So if you do what we say, it'll be a better life, right? We're promising you a better life if you do what we say. V'im lav al yanichulo, and if not, we are not going to lift the taxes. V'im lav al yanichulo es ha meches. Okay, so now Yehudi, a Yid, a Jew who's found in this city, shenimtza sham mayasa. What should he do? Yaniach, if he puts it on, nimtza nena. He's putting on a crown. Puts on, the crown jewel, let's say. He gets benefit from that. If it's lo yaniach, if he doesn't put it on, nimtza mahana, what's going to happen? He's benefiting. Why? Because he's now going to have to give them tax money. So, therefore, what should he do? So, first of all, you see from here, though, that according to this brisa, you're not allowed to benefit them. Reish Lakish says you could. Rabbi Yochanan says you can't. So Rabbi Yochanan brought this. Excuse me. Rabbi Yochanan brought this as a problem, a difficulty with Reish Lakish, because you see here that if the Jew were to not put on the crown, he would then be committing to pay the taxes, and that would be benefiting the idol worshippers. So Mikan Amr, from here they said, Hanosei v'nosein b'shuk shalavodos kochavim. Anybody who does business in the marketplace where they're idol worshippers, behema te'aker, your animal will be uprooted. Peiros ksos v'kelim yirkubu, your fruits and your clothing and your vessels are all going to rot. Ma'os t'klimatechos yolichem liyam. Should take the money and all the metal that you acquired and bring it to the Dead Sea and throw it away. What's an example of uprooting your animal? Like we said a few days ago, we said when you
like some water.
What?
Like water.
Maybe. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, Joseph. So the way you uproot the animals, you take away that 3 parts of the legs, the part between the second part of the animal's leg and its femur. You take away those tendons. Okay, fine. That's what was taught in the name of Rabbi Nassan in this brisa. What do you see though? Katani Mias, nevertheless, we taught Yaniach, if you put on the crown, Nimtsanena, you're getting benefit. Lo Yaniach, if you don't put it on, Nimtsamahana, you're benefiting them. That's directly against Reish Lakish, who allows one to benefit them. Amar of Mesharshia, brother of Edi, from Mesharshia, the son of Edi, said, Kasavar Rashim ben Lakish, Rashim Lakish holds, Pligi Rabbanon Aleha the Rabbi Nassan, the Ana the Amri ki Rabbanon, the Pligi Aleha. Reish Lakish was talking about our Mishnah, which was the opinion of the rabbis. The brisa here was in the name of Rabbi Nassan. Rabbi Yochanan's assumption was no one argues with Rabbi Nassan. Reish Lakish's answer is it's two different opinions. And when I said that you can benefit the idols, the idol worshippers, I was talking about the opinion of the rabbis. However, Rabbi Nassan's opinion, he argues, and he says that you cannot benefit them. What does Rabbi Yochanan hold? Rabbi Yochanan suffer lo pligi. He holds that the rabbis and Rabbi Nassan do not argue about this, and everyone agrees you cannot give benefit to the idol worshippers. Yeah. So now, says the Gemara, is that really true? Below pligi? We're asking on Rabbi Yochanan now, is that true? That the rabbis and Rabbi Nassan don't argue? Is that really true? Tanya, we have in another brisa. You go down to the marketplace of the idol worshippers. The lokin behema of the lokin, you can buy from them behema, an animal, avadim, servants, shvachos, maid servants, batim, visados, vikramim. You can buy from them houses, fields, vineyards, the kosev, and you can write it down, umala, the arkos shalahem. You can go to their courthouses and write down these documents. Why? Because you are so you're going into their courthouses. Now, it's like a certain honor when you walk into their courthouse that, oh, look, a Jew's walking into my courthouse. And so you walk into this idol worshiper's courthouse and you're writing down the transactions that took place. Now, why are you allowed to do that? Because if you don't write this down in their courthouses, you're going to lose your money. They're going to deny it, and they're going to want their objects back. So now, yeah. Now, bimhaya Kohen, if you're a Kohen, so metame b'chutz la'aretz, vadun ula'arer imahim. You can go, you can leave Eretz Yisrael, you can go and become impure, impurify yourself in chutz la'aretz in order to go and write down the transactions to save your money. Ukishem shemetame b'chutz la'aretz, just like you're allowed to go and impurify yourself. We said that they made a decree that all the land outside of Israel have the impurity of death because so many graves and so many dead bones. They made a decree that everyone who goes there, us now in exile, are impure. Just like you can do that, so you can also impurify yourself in a cemetery. Says the Gemara, you're letting a Kohen to go through a cemetery to impurify himself in order to save his money from in order to save his money. That's Tumah D'Oraisahi. That's a biblical prohibition of impurifying yourself. So the Gemara says you're right. A Kohen has no right to go through the cemetery in order to get to the courthouses of the non-Jews in order to write down these documents to save his money. It's a biblical prohibition. You can't override that. Ella Besa Pras Dirabanan. Rather, the Besa Pras is a certain field where there was graves that were dug up. I don't know if dug up, but there was or not buried properly, and there was bones everywhere. And they decreed that this area of land is going to be prohibited rabbinically. So, but a Kohen, they allowed a Kohen to go through there to impurify himself in order to
financial.
Exactly, for financial purposes. Just a few more words. This is brought down in Shulchan Aruch that you're allowed to leave Eretz Yisrael to learn Torah and to get married. There's a prohibition if you're living in Israel to leave the land. If you know, it doesn't mean to visit, to leave permanently, but it was permitted to go learn Torah and to go get married. And we'll continue from here tomorrow.
Yashua.
Catching up a little bit too.